The Shark Deck.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Jimmy Kimmel hosts the Oscars tonight. Now, normally I record Monday in advance, but you know what? Last year's Oscars taught me anything can happen. Now, do I think somebody's going to slap Jimmy Kimmel? Perhaps as a bit, even though I don't think they would go there. That would be awkward. Do I think somebody's going to get so upset at a Jimmy Kimmel bit that they run up on the stage and slap him? I doubt it, but The Hollywood Reporter did a lengthy interview with Jimmy Kimmel, who said he's prepared for another Oscar night slap. Kimmel joked, "If I'm bigger than they are, I beat the crap out of them on television." They asked Jimmy, hosting the Oscars is one of the most thankless jobs in Hollywood. It's only gotten worse in recent years. Why do it again? Kimmel said, I was surprised because I didn't necessarily think I'd ever do it again or be asked to do it again. And it wasn't one of those situations where they couldn't get anybody and they asked me at the last minute. I definitely would have said no if that was the case. So I don't know, kind of came out of the blue and they clearly got me at the right moment. I did wait a week to tell my wife. I thought she might react negatively, but she was very positive. So I said, all right, I'll do it. Edgy question here from the Hollywood Reporter. They said, Bill Kramer recently discussed your appeal to the Academy, noting that your edges aren't too sharp and people in the audience feel very safe. Kimmel. Well, first of all, when Bill said my edges aren't too sharp, I think what he was saying is, I'm fat. I take that as fat shaming, and I've told him I'm trying to lose weight. I did not fit in the tuxedo I wore in 2018. It was disturbing, but I know what he means. I'm in a unique position that my job is to make fun of people in Hollywood and then have them sit next to me on the stage, and I've had 20 years of practice as far as balancing that stuff out. When I first started doing Jimmy Kimmel Live, I had no practice, and there was no balance. I just mowed through the guests, and then we wouldn't have another A-list guest for another 8 months. I'm also very conscious of what this is. The Oscars is something that's very meaningful to people in the movie industry, and for many of them, this will be the biggest professional night of their lives. The last thing I want to do is ruin it for everyone. They asked Kimmel about the crisis committee that is supposedly in place, noting that they've run many scenarios. Kimmel was asked what it's about, and he said, I wish I knew. I've not been involved in that. I guess I'm the last thing they're worried about. Hollywood Reporter, up until the slap, you were part of the biggest Oscar night saga in recent memory, hosting the year when they messed up the Best Picture envelope. Remember that happened? Yeah. Kimmel said, yeah, we got knocked down the list. It's disappointing in a lot of ways. If you're going to be part of an F-up, it might as well be the biggest F-up ever. Being part of the second biggest F-up doesn't carry as much cachet. All right, what about the monologue? Kimmel said, it'll be similar to what I've done in the past. I don't have a lot of talent, so there's not a huge number of areas for me to draw outside of telling jokes. I mean, I'm pretty good at drawing cartoons. I guess I could sit down and do caricatures of the stars, but I particularly enjoy writing jokes for a specific audience, whether that be at the upfronts or a bunch of TV or movie stars. It enables you to be very specific. The best advice I got about hosting the Oscars was from Billy Crystal, who told me, play to the room. Interesting. You always have to be conscious of the audience at home and make sure they understand what's going on, but you also want to get laughs in the room, and if you don't get that, it's not going to play well for the people watching on TV. So that's my focus, not just the actors, but all the various production people and show business luminaries who are sitting there listening to you tell your jokes. And unlike most joke situations, they're on camera, so they're very careful about how they react, and that makes it a harder bar to clear. Very, very interesting. Will he joke about the slap? Well, whatever I say about it, it's going to have to be great, right? Because so much has been said and there's so much focus on it. I obviously don't want to make the whole monologue about that, but it'd be ridiculous not to mention it. Will they get the show in under 3 hours? He said, oh, that's preposterous. This show's going to be a lot longer than 3 hours. I'll tell you that right now. Alert the affiliates. We're going long. I mean, we've added all the categories back, so by the virtue of that, it's going to be long. Hopefully it'll be fun, too. I think we have some great performance moments. We've got Rihanna. I think it's going to be a fun show, but yeah, everybody's going to complain it's long. I mean, you don't have to watch the whole thing. Nobody's holding a gun to your head. Watch the first 15 minutes. You can go to sleep, as far as I'm concerned. I love this next answer. What's a more realistic show length? Kimmel said, oh, I want to run the show right up to Good Morning America. I want George Stephanopoulos to have to wait 8 minutes to come out of his dressing room. Nick Kroll caught up with CBS News. Last week was the History of the World Part 2. And I liked the first movie when I was, 10, 12, 9. I don't know when that came out, but I liked it then. And I just haven't been able to get myself excited to watch this new one. I don't know if it's good or bad. My cousin told me I could wait on it. He gave it kind of a mixed review, so we'll see. Anyway, Nick Kroll said, I'm never going to be the guy who just rides a motorcycle. If I were, I'd be the guy at the back of the pack who's like, oh no, I'm going to miss the lights. CBS News found Nick Kroll working on some jokes at the Comedy Kitchen. He said, I'm so excited for tonight's show. We have an insane lineup. You guys, Kanye West is here tonight. He was asked about working out the jokes and will some of these show up in his next special? And Kroll said, yeah, at least it'll be the base of operations. It'll be tent poles that I'm like, okay, that joke works well enough to put here. Quick stop at Gossip Corner. Will Ferrell was in Indianapolis earlier in the week. He was spotted in the parking lot of the Beech Grove Walmart last Sunday night. And then another viewer saw him at a Southside Waffle House. He also went to a Pacers game. He asked Pacers forward Aaron Nesmith, who wasn't playing in the game because of a sore left hip, if Nesmith wanted a beer. Nesmith said with a chuckle, "I'm good. I appreciate the offer, though." Jim Gaffigan told Cinema Blend, "I've always loved acting. Remember, Phil Hoffman. He was kind of like my doppelganger." "We know, Jim. You mention it in like every single interview. We know. You kind of look like Philip Seymour Hoffman a little bit, maybe, perhaps. We know. Enough." He was kind of like my doppelganger, who was this huge Academy Award-winning actor. When people are like, "Are you related to him?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I just look like him." Just tell people you are Philip Seymour Hoffman. They'll forget that he died, and you can get all his gigs. Philadelphia Weekly, they caught up with Jim Jeffries. Philadelphia Weekly called Jim Jeffries the cocaine bear of comedy. All right, I'll bite. Weekly writes, that is, until the time of the pandemic, when Jim Jeffries overhauled his entire life, including giving up booze and drugs, getting married and having a kid, and taking to a vegan diet to live longer, rather than his live fast, die young usual demeanor. Weekly said, "I'm always leery of stand-up comedians touring on the back of a new TV special or album, something Jeffries debated at the very start of his show at Parks, by denying any connection between the two and calling anyone in the audience who believed that C-words." Quite frankly, the C-word described almost everybody that Jeffries put down in Bensalem. All of Hollywood, especially Austin Butler, for continuing to use a Southern accent from his time in the Elvis movie doing interviews, Bill Cosby for wanting to continue a stand-up act once out of prison, and anyone questioning some of the more controversial brand names of Australia's favorite foods, such as cheese and ice cream. Fact is, Jeffries uses the C-word like most of us use contractions.
Welcome to How to Tickle Yourself. I'm your host, Duff McDonald.
And I'm your co-host, Matt McButter. We'll be talking to people who specialize in different ways of inhabiting their own consciousness, from artists to yoga teachers to scientists. We've even got a professional magician.
We're going to ask them questions like, what is consciousness? Why does it tickle? And what is magic anyway? Is it just card tricks, or is it the fact that your little speck of consciousness is part of a perfect possibility machine?
Find us wherever you get your podcasts and at storicmedia.com.
Let me check out my South by Southwest bookmark and see what's going on today. 4 o'clock, Adult Swim's The Eric Andre Show. Join Eric and his friends for an evening of live comedy, all right? Reggie Watts, Sandy Honig, Felipe Esparza, DJ Doug Pound, and Eric Andre. Not bad, all right? 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we could do that. 6 o'clock, Improv for Humans with Matt Besser. It's a podcast taping, but that should be good. 7 o'clock, The Sunday Show, parentheses, stand-up comedy. Todd Barry, Catherine Blanford, Ophira Eisenberg, Stuart Goldsmith, Caitlin Palufo. 8 o'clock, Live from New York, parentheses, stand-up comedy. Glad I hypothetically went all the way from New York to Austin to see New York comedians. Adrienne Iapolucci, done. She's like one of my current favorites. Are you on board with Adrienne? You should be. Josh Johnson, Ismail Lufti, Emma Willman, Godfrey. I'm glad I hypothetically came all the way from New York to Austin to see New York comedians. We're doing that show. 9 o'clock, 420 show with Matt Besser. 10 o'clock, Riffs and Riffraff with Nick Thune and friends. Pretty strong for a Sunday, right? This jam session brings Nick Thune together with a variety of musically inclined comics. And then 11 o'clock, the Hateful Eight, Roast Battles Tournament of Champions, Round 2. All right, let's hit Eric Andre at 4 o'clock. That'll take us to 5:15. Matt Besser's show starts at 6. That'll take us to 7:15. And then we can go to Live from New York. I really like that lineup, and I want you to see Adrienne Iapolucci. That's at 8 o'clock. That takes us to 9:15. Then we've got an hour and 45 minutes until 11 o'clock, and we'll go see the Hateful Eight roast battle. Sounds like we're going to eat like a slice of pizza and drink a soda. I don't think we're getting much dinner tonight. Unless we blow off Eric Andre and we don't go out until 8 o'clock. We could do that. Should we do that? I do want to eat, and I like beers. Yeah. I'm going to pick away at this next thing during the week. From Vulture, 6 stand-ups analyzed ChatGPT's attempts to steal their jobs. So this is the artificial intelligence thing. They had it write some jokes. I've done this bit myself on a couple podcasts. So what they've done is they've asked the ChatGPT to write jokes in the style of particular comedians and then asked the comedians about it. Today's comedian, Gary Gulman. ChatGPT as Gary Gulman said, have you ever noticed that as you get older, you become more of a collector? When I was young, I'd throw everything away, but now I can't bring myself to part with anything. I have a drawer full of old cell phones. Probably pause there for a laugh, right? Why? I don't know. Maybe someday I'll need to call someone in the past. All right, probably pause there for a laugh. And don't even get me started on Tupperware. I have so much Tupperware, I could even open up my own Tupperware store, but here's the thing, I can never find the matching lid. I'm convinced that Tupperware is playing some sort of cruel joke on me. Not awful. Gulman said, the first thing I thought was, I can't imagine the computer would have an understanding of what in the style of Gary Gulman means. I don't know what it's drawing from because I would have a hard time describing my style. Next thing, looking at joke number 1, the line, have you ever noticed, is this horrific 80s phrase that gave birth to a million comedians. As soon as I hear, have you ever noticed, I stop listening because I know it's just going to be another really lazy observation. I have to say, though, there's one really good line. Maybe someday I'll need to call someone in the past. That's a really good sentence. But then, almost to undo its goodwill with me, it says, don't even get me started on. Gary adds, the I can never find the matching lid punchline is like a you always lose a sock in the dryer joke. Here's another one from the Chatbot. You know what's great about getting older? You don't care as much about what other people think. When I was in my 20s, I was so self-conscious I wouldn't even go to the beach without a shirt on. Now, I'll walk around in a Speedo and not think twice about it. Of course, now that I'm older, nobody wants to see me in a Speedo, but that's beside the point. Gary said the Speedo thing was a big thing for comedians to talk about in the 80s, but it is kind of impressive that it isn't mishmash and gibberish. The computer actually tried to give this joke a tag. Nobody wants to see me in a Speedo, but that's beside the point. You don't need the but that's beside the point, but I see what the computer is going for by trying to end it with another laugh. One more from the Chatbot. As you get older, you start to notice things don't work the way they used to. Like I used to be able to eat anything I wanted, not gain a pound. Now if I even look at a piece of cake, I gain 5 pounds. My memory's shot. I can't even remember what I had for breakfast this morning. It's like my brain has a delete button and it's getting a workout. But the worst part about getting older, the aches and pains. I wake up every morning feeling like I got hit by a truck. I didn't even do anything the day before. I feel like my body's punishing me for all the things I did when I was younger. Now, let me be fair to me. I'm reading a podcast and I have no crowd. I'm not a comedian, never done stand-up, but if you told me to go up and perform this, I would have taken some pauses there and kind of like use some body language and tried to at least coax a laugh. So please be kind to me. Plus, it's the Chatbot. Gary said, I don't think I've ever heard a comedian talk about having a delete button in their brain. That's the kind of absurdity I figure would be beyond the computer. Gary said, it's eerie, but there are comedians who are worse than this. The computer may be able to be a bad comedian, but it won't be able to convince you it's a competent comedian, at least not yet. It'll probably be able to write fart jokes for kids and things like that before it's able to write something along the lines of Mitch Hedberg or Maria Bamford. A computer cannot replicate Maria Bamford. I'm going to take that challenge. I'm more familiar with Hedberg's style than Maria's. Not that I don't know Maria, but I can channel Mitch. I'm going to ask the computer, write some Mitch Hedberg jokes about the Oscars. All right, I've skimmed these. These are not horrible. Let's go. Ready? I watched the Oscars the other night. It's like watching a bunch of millionaires give each other gold statues without any excitement of a pirate treasure hunt. All right. The Oscars are like the Super Bowl for actors, except instead of touchdowns, they score points for being really good at pretending to be other people. The Oscars are like a fancy prom for grown-ups, except instead of having king and queen, they have best actor and actress. Instead of punch, they have an open bar. All right. The Oscars are like a fashion show for people who can't afford the clothes. They sit at home and judge other people's outfits while wearing sweatpants and eating Cheetos. That's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. Those weren't bad. See you tomorrow.
Hello, I am Mark Francis, host of Palace Intrigue, the podcast that delves into the daily drama of the British royal family. These short daily episodes cover the latest news and scandals involving the likes of Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, Kate Middleton, King Charles, and the rest. From backroom sources to public controversies, we've got you covered. Whether you're a long-time fan or just curious about the royals, Palace Intrigue is the perfect podcast for you. So join us as we explore the lives, legacies, and dramas of the British monarchy. Subscribe now and never miss an episode of Palace Intrigue.